Do you wish somebody wrote down the recipe for your parenting challenges? Did you want tips and tricks to become a better mama for you and your babies? I know I do. If you're a mother who feels that you are doing the best you can with the hands you've been dealt, but you're still getting it done, then this podcast is for you. I'm so glad you tuned in to Nailed It Motherhood, because we might have the recipe that nobody wrote down. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Nailed It Motherhood Podcast. I am your host with the most, Tamara Eldridge, and I'm so glad you're here. We are winding down season 2's phenomenal guest moms and dads, but I would be remiss if I didn't thank all of our Nailed It listeners for your support and for your continuing to share. Our podcast was created for you, the moms who have real personal stories that might help some of us parents who have questions in our own parenting journey. That would be me. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you for your vulnerability with our platform. To support Nailed It Motherhood financially, you can click the description links for Buy Me a Coffee and Buzzsprout in the description. All support given is truly, truly appreciated. Now, we've experienced some pretty awesome moms on the show, and today is no different. Our guest today is a mama whose motherhood journey transformed every part of her life, from the way she shows up for her family to how she shows up for herself. She became a first-time mom during the height of the pandemic, bless her heart, navigating new motherhood in isolation after 2 heartbreaking miscarriages. The return to work brought a wave of anxiety and guilt, but she had the desire to be present, to find purpose, and to build something meaningful. This therapist and mama has launched her own private practice and is pursuing perinatal mental health to provide support to other moms who feel overwhelmed. Listeners, please welcome to the show, Jocelyn Flores.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm super excited to hear what you have to say because basically you're needed. So your story is truly, truly necessary. I should say that I love that your practice open space therapy, shameless plug. It focuses on busy moms who want to feel confident again. And that makes you perfect to be on our show. I'm excited to hear a little bit more about how you started that practice and why you felt the need to do it, because, you know, you were a pandemic mom. God bless your heart, for real, for real. Like, I know the stories from people who gave birth during the pandemic are totally different. And I'm just a year off. So I'm kind of grateful that I was not a pandemic mom because of the anxiety that I carry. So, like I said, bless your heart. But I do think, I know that this conversation is going to be serendipitous, because when I asked you what one of your goals was that you had for yourself outside of parenting, I'm going to quote you. You said, prioritize joy and rest without needing to earn it. And girl, that is a powerful phrase in itself. I definitely look forward to hearing more during your personal parenting journey. But as always, before we go into the personal parenting journey, I have to share my Tavi tale, because I don't really think the listeners come to hear me. I think they come to hear about my child. So today's Tavi tale is called Skills and Thrills. So it is summertime when we're recording. It may come out, this episode might come out in the fall, but it is the summertime as we're pre-recording. And my 5-year-old is finally tall enough to ride some of the roller coasters at the local theme park. We did get summer passes this season. So when we took her for the first time, the first ride that the teenagers that I went with convinced her to get on was the Jackrabbit, which is one of the oldest roller coasters in the park. And she was so excited to be on it. And now every time we get on a hill in the car, or we do anything that might have like a sharp turn or whatever. It's jackrabbit, jackrabbit. Oh, mom, put your hands up. Can't put my hands up, honey. I'm driving. She just gets super excited, and everything is now referencing the roller coaster, the thrills of the amusement park. So I'm super in awe of my child because, I mean, when she is fixed, she's fixed. So she loves playing with her magnets, which I think is a fantastic toy, and she's had them for probably 3 or 4 years now. But she loves playing with her magnets. But recently, she has wanted to build a roller coaster with her magnets. So it's definitely exciting to see her piece together. She goes and rips up cardboard and she like makes it into a track so that the magnets can climb up it. And then she has a magnet with wheels on it. So that's the coaster, obviously. And it is pretty exciting just to watch her mind work. And I always I kind of want her to be a creative person, but I kind of want to know which direction she's going to choose because I kind of think there's a little engineer in her as well. So it is very exciting to see how life's experiences play into her play at home. And, I guess I'll have to come back in about 20 years and tell you all where she went. But it is exciting to watch her through that stage of her life. So thank you, Jocelyn, for listening to my Tavi Tale, where I got to share about my baby's skills and thrills. She might design the next big thing. You never know. And thank you, listeners, as well, for listening to my Tavi Tale. But enough about my baby. We're here for Miss Jocelyn Flores, who is a licensed therapist. So it is her turn to shine, but I have to read her bio so you all know who I'm talking about today. So, Jocelyn Flores, LCSW, is a licensed therapist and founder of Open Space Therapy, LLC, a virtual practice serving women across Connecticut. She specializes in supporting overwhelmed moms to build confidence, reduce stress, overcome trauma, and set healthy boundaries. I love it already. A proud Latina, Jocelyn is passionate about creating safe spaces where women can feel seen, heard, and empowered to design their dream lives. In her downtime, she's all about family time and the occasional travel daydream. So, Jocelyn, I'm super, super excited to hand you the mic. I'm going to back on up and let you share your herstory segment. We love to hear your personal parenting journey.
Thank you. Thank you again.
You're so welcome.
So my journey started, oh my goodness, my journey to become a mom started like in 2019. And after 2 early pregnancy losses, we finally got pregnant, I want to say like 3 months into the pandemic. So it was a very scary time because of everything that was going on with the pandemic, but also because this was the first pregnancy after the losses, and I felt like I was kind of holding my breath the whole time. Thankfully, I had my son. He was okay. Everything turned out fine. During this time, I was working at an agency where I learned a lot about trauma. I was doing trauma work. I was working with children and families. I was working with moms. And I was surprised to, after I had my son, have experienced the anxiety, the depression, just some of these feelings that were so difficult. And I found that similar to when I experienced the miscarriage. As I opened up and talked to friends about it, a lot of people were like, yeah, that's happened to me too, or I've experienced that. And I just kind of saved that in the back of my brain of like, this is interesting. If a lot of people are going through it, why aren't we talking more about it? So I went on, I returned to work. It was very emotional for me to be at work. I was nursing, so that was a whole nother journey too. I was working with kids. I was working with all different things, but some kids that had experienced severe trauma, a significant amount of trauma. And it was very difficult, rewarding, but difficult work. So I decided that it wasn't for me. I couldn't separate it. And it was hard to be there and be with a mom talking about how important it was for her to be attached to her baby and attuned to her baby. And I felt like I was missing out time with my child who we had wanted so much, especially after everything we went through. So I started moving more into private practice, moved into some part-time work on my own. And then 2.5 years later, I became pregnant with my daughter. Thankfully, everything went well, but it was kind of the same experience of holding my breath of, is this going to be okay? Is everything going to work? She's here. She's healthy. I have a beautiful son, beautiful daughter. And again, I'm going through the postpartum. It was more surprising to me this time because I'm like, I had a son already. I know what I'm doing. You know, I've been through labor and delivery. And I find it curious how people are more open about, you know, like, this is how my labor and delivery went. But people don't really talk about what happens after when the baby was here. Again, I started talking to friends, started talking to family of, you know, these are some of the things I'm feeling. It doesn't feel okay. This is not how I pictured motherhood going, especially the second time. And again, I heard, yep, I've been through that too. I experienced that too, or this was my experience, but in a very private setting. And that's when I decided to shift my private practice into focusing on working with mothers who are dealing with the mom guilt, mothers who are dealing with the difficult feelings, but feel a lot of shame about speaking about it, who are experiencing the grief of this isn't the way that I thought motherhood was going to be. I've become best friends with the word "and," right? And I think it's special, and it helps at least me describe motherhood of, I love my kids and this is difficult, you know. This is a beautiful experience and it's nothing like I imagined it, right? So through that, I decided that I want to focus on building community with women, safe spaces where women can open up and say, you know, I'm struggling with this in my motherhood journey. Not so much sometimes for a solution, but sometimes it's just to get it off of our chest and hear from someone else. I've been there too. You know, I went through that 2 years ago. My child is older and I experienced that too. So kind of build that village that I think we've lost with the way times are, the way we live, the way society is, you know. My background is my mom is Puerto Rican, my dad is Mexican. So I'm hearing my aunts, my grandparents' stories of motherhood. There was always family around. We lived close together. It was very different than how we live here in the States for the most part. So I'm doing things to bring moms together individually. When I see moms, I want it to be a space for them to feel comfortable opening up about some of the things that they struggle with, sharing with others, becoming friends with that mom guilt, because I don't know that it ever goes away. But I think if you can figure out where it comes from and how to make peace with it, then it becomes a lot easier to ask for help, to set the boundaries, to get back to the version of yourself that you want to be, or create a new version of who you want to be. So here I am today. Now I'm doing like coffee and mom talks where we have groups and we just talk about motherhood, journal, ask questions, share community. And I think, you know, that's been very helpful in my journey. And I'm excited to continue it with other moms. And my kids are 4 and 1.5 now, almost 2. I stopped counting the months at 1.5. So almost 2, should be 2 in a few months. And it's been an amazing, incredible journey. But again, I tell everyone, it's not what I pictured it to be at all. You know, it's not like the movies. It's not like social media, the highlight reel of everyone's life. But I've learned a lot. I've grown. I'm thankful for the experiences I've had, and I'm excited for what's to come next and seeing them grow. And similar to your story, it's just amazing to see how they get into things and they get creative, and how it brings us to parts of ourselves too that, you know, we've forgotten or we haven't connected with in a while.
Thank you so much for sharing. You have a lot of elements that were shared in a very short amount of time, but I think that I have some more questions for you about how you really just came about shifting your focus and even became friends with the mom guilt. I love that phrase, by the way. So let me start with, you started off working with kids, and I understand it was more of a trauma informed focus. What was the aha moment for you to shift from working with kids to working with moms and adults?
Definitely having my son. Having my son and going home and seeing him and having a hard time separating, right? And feeling like, because of all the things I heard, almost feeling like I had to put him in a bubble because I didn't want any of these things to happen to him or, experience any of that. It was really hard for me to separate that. And it changes you. It changes the way you view the world.
Yeah. How does that change your style of therapy?
So I think I have a lot more understanding now working with adults, digging deeper into, how did we get here? And when I say, like, for example, becoming friends with the mom goat, where did this come from? Because it just didn't come into your brain out of nowhere one day, right? It's from the experiences that we've had, the things we've been through. So it's given me an appreciation for people's childhood, our childhoods, right? And how much that shapes us. And especially in my parenting, the importance of being present, of being aware of, attachment, everything just makes such a big difference, especially in those early years.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. So I've heard the story before about, having a miscarriage and not knowing that other people were going through it until they started talking about it, or even not realizing that, people talk about the labor and delivery part. We know that, and you highlighted that, but then you also elevated that people don't really talk about what happens once you go home. And I've heard that before, and I just feel like it is such a key what do I want to say? It's a milestone for parents. We have this baby, now what do we do? What do we do with these emotions that, I don't feel like I'm connecting with my child, or I might be connecting with my child, but I'm so tired and I just want to break, or I
Mm-hmm.
don't feel like I have a village. So I appreciate that you brought that about, because I can kind of relate. Now, I will say that when I had my daughter, we were connected when we first came. I knew I had to get back to work though. And it was when she got a little bit older, 1, 2, 3, that I kind of felt like, I don't really know if I can be a mom. And yeah, it gets hard to think that, and to, wake up every day and to know that you still have to be there and you still have to take care of this person. What do you say? What is the first thing in your professional role that you say when a parent is like, I don't want to do this anymore? How do you encourage them to know that they can do it? And that might just be postpartum talking.
Mm-hmm. So I always start with, tell me more, right? You don't want to do, like, is it a specific part of, the parenting? And then I look into, like, the village, the support. What support do you have to maybe do less of that part that's overwhelming you, right? And then I go into, like, is there any way to shift the way that we're thinking about it, right? Not to go into, like, the typical of, like, oh, they're going to grow up or this is going to pass, because yes, that is true. And when you're with a newborn, it also feels like forever sometimes, of like, oh my gosh, again, right? So just kind of sitting with the what's within our control and what can we do about that? Who can we bring in as a resource? I think that's where I typically try to start.
So with your focus, or with you kind of pushing into the perinatal mental health focus, what can you do to kind of encourage or prevent the postpartum depression or the postpartum mom guilt, now that you're kind of starting before the baby gets here? What are some of the strategies and the tools and techniques that you can teach parents to kind of start working and coping with?
Yeah. So my wish for everyone, right, is that you don't experience this, you don't go through this, but the reality and the statistics are much different than that it's actually much more common than we know, and maybe even higher, because again, most people don't talk about it, right? So I think of it like the pregnancy journey, right? When you're pregnant, you have all these appointments, you prepare for the baby shower, the gender reveal, the room. So I think of preparing in the same way, right? Who is going to help you with diaper changes? Who's going to get up at night? Are you going to try to breastfeed? Is that not your thing? If it doesn't work out that way, do you have a backup, right? Making a plan similar to like the labor and delivery plan, which we know, right, doesn't always go as planned, but at least having a plan, right? And in that, again, what are my supports? What are my resources? If I have these thoughts, who do I feel comfortable telling these thoughts to? Do I have the hotline numbers, things like that? Because it is, I mean, I'm a therapist. I had been working for a while. I thought I had, the knowledge and everything. And I pictured it of, when my son was born, I was like, I'm going to put him on my chest and I'm going to cry. And I was in complete shock. I couldn't even cry. So then I felt like, I'm already doing this wrong. You're supposed to be so emotional and crying when you see your baby. And, after that, I obviously dug deeper into that, but there's a lot that you can plan and prep for.
Yeah, I like that. I like that you said to kind of know those numbers that you might need to call, know them before it comes up, because with that plan, there's a quote that somebody I used to sing with always used to say, you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. And I love that. Like, if you already have those resources tucked away, you know where to find them. If it comes up, you're already helping yourself a little bit. You're already supporting yourself a little bit better. Not that you're in the wrong if you don't have them. I don't want to ever demonize anybody for not having those things, because we don't think that this is going to happen. We don't think that our emotions and our hormones are going to work against us during this joyful time of taking care of this baby, this bundle of joy, as we call it in every world around us. So thank you for that. Thank you for just reminding us to plan even for that mental health break or self-care or support. I appreciate that. You talked about the way we live since you've had your son during the pandemic. And I kind of want to know, are there negatives and are there positives of having the way we live change since the pandemic? We are now virtual everything. If we could be, really, we can order groceries from the click of a button. We can we can have streaming movies, so we don't have to go out to the movie theater. There were parties on Zoom. There were baby showers on Zoom. We had virtual living. What are the negatives and what are the positives of both parenting and your job as pre or post pandemic?
Yeah. So I guess I can start with the negative. The negative is that, we were doing a lot less socializing, right? There's even the term of the pandemic babies, because they got so used to seeing everyone with like masks. So now there's this question of how is it for these kiddos to read social cues, social expressions, right? And their development. So a lot less socializing. I think a lot more isolation too. It kind of goes hand in hand, right? Even just, seeing the neighbor and, having that talk as you go out. Things just got very different with people working from home. You don't have that commute. One of my favorite things to do in terms of working when I got home was just to sit in my car for a minute or two and kind of just release everything that I had from work, like let go of that day so that I can come into the house, fresh, in a better mood, better attitude if things had been tough. And that's something I miss. So, I miss just sitting in my car. Some of the positives are like the convenience, right? I knew from the moment that I got pregnant, because of the work I do, I'm constantly talking to people. Sometimes I kind of like to be in my bubble. So I knew the day I have, a kiddo, I want a little bit more privacy. I don't really want all the visits. I don't want to deal with all the comments, right? Because everyone has comments, suggestions, tips, sometimes well-intentioned, but I was like, I'm not ready for that. So giving birth during the pandemic, I was like, okay, we're good. Like, I don't have to worry about that part, right? But I did miss out on a lot of things. Like early on, the mom groups, the support groups, they were online, I'm sure, but I didn't look around given everything that was going on. So Yeah, mostly that. With working, some of the positives, some of the negatives, it's tough because, right, sometimes you want moms to get out, but if everything is being done online and there's no need to get out, or it's too difficult to get out, there's a lot of benefits to being out, being around other people, the social cues, the relating, even just getting sunlight, getting fresh air, especially if you live in an area like I'm in Connecticut, right? So, like, soak up all the sun you can in the summer because winter is coming and it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, winter's coming and it's coming hard up there. I was only in Connecticut one time. I'm cool. You got that. You got that, Jocelyn. But I just have like one more question, I guess. But before I ask the question, I'm very impressed with you. You led the section off with becoming friends with mom guilt, and then you started talking about how you have coffee and mom talks, how you are able to really talk about motherhood, and you all journal together. That is pretty impressive, and that's kind of what I wanted. I want Nailed It Motherhood to be, that community where we can just share and release stories about our parenting journeys so that people can say, hey, I went through that, or I already went through that. Here's what you do. Here's some tips and tricks. I love that community where we can just, be honest about what's going on for us, so that we don't have to feel that mom guilt. So it's interesting that you can be friends with mom guilt, but at the same time let go of the mom guilt in this safe space. So I want to thank you for that. Now I forgot the question, and I knew I was going to do that too. Darn it, Jocelyn, I really did.
It's okay. I had something to add about one of the phrases you said, if you want me to do that.
Please feel free. You might answer the question.
So it's funny that you said, I'm probably going to mess it up or say it backwards, but you said stay ready so you don't have to get ready, right? And that was, I can't remember where I heard it, but that was definitely with my daughter. I heard it. One of the things that I kept repeating to myself of, what are the things that make me feel good and how can I incorporate those things into my day, right? And I think that's part of the planning of, like, what's the one thing that no matter what happens, right? You have spit up on your shirt, the baby's not sleeping, everything was going wrong, but what's the one thing that you can promise to yourself you're going to do, right? With my son, it was like a shower. And to people that don't have kids, they might be like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, I need a shower every day, because otherwise the days just kind of blend into each other. And I've talked to people all the time and they're like, I haven't showered in 2 days, this and that. And there's no judgment, right? But for me, that was my one thing. With my daughter, it was like, I need to get outside. If I can't get outside, sit by a window, something, I need the sunlight. So coming back to, there has to be one thing that you can do that doesn't feel overwhelming. It's not, go out and get a makeover, but like one thing that helps you feel good.
Yeah, I like that. I definitely like that. And as a single mom, I'm not going to lie. At first, it was hard to try to find the time for a shower. But eventually I was like, she's going to sleep and she can't get up even if she doesn't sleep. So I'm going to go ahead and let her cry it out while I wash the day of stress and anxiety off of me. A shower feels so good, especially when you're stressed out. So I do remember what the question was. It was about social cues. So since you had your son during the pandemic, and essentially your daughter wasn't very far removed from the pandemic, how can you teach kids social cues after them not knowing anything but mask and only seeing eyes? What are the steps that you have to take to start to help them understand that's a bad look, that person is angry, or look at the joy in their eyes, or you can see their eyebrow? Like, what are some of the things that you teach a baby about social cues? And I'm asking because I work in education, and we're seeing a lot of elevated issues. And they all go back to social cues, and it's in certain grade levels. And I'm like, those kids should have been in daycare during the pandemic, but they didn't. Not everybody had a chance to go to daycare, or these kids should have been in kindergarten. And this is part of why they're struggling to read. And so everything now is like, oh my goodness, all the issues that you might have seen pre-2020 are now elevated because the pandemic added an extra thick layer of stuff on it. So,
Mhm.
what are some of the ways that you can go back and teach kids social cues after knowing nothing but mask?
Yeah. So I think two things are really important that you can do. One is kind of coming into their world, right? So depending on the age, joining them in whatever they're interested in, right? So when you mentioned your daughter and the roller coasters, right? Looking at people on roller coasters, or when she goes on a roller coaster, commenting on, her expressions, other people's expressions. If it's a TV show or a character that they're into, commenting on everything you see. And the second one is modeling, right? Completely fine to say, like, oh, mommy's feeling frustrated right now, right? My friends laugh and they say, your son is such a therapist kid, because he'll get upset and he'll say, I'm mad, I want to go take space. And I'll say, okay, that's appropriate, right? I'm going to take some deep breaths, or, right? So because he's heard me say those things, because we've sat down and we've talked about, look at Daniel the tiger or whoever else it may be on TV. And sometimes just being silly, right? Of like, what does a mad face look like? What does a sad face look like? And expanding it beyond those emotions of like, sometimes you can feel a little mad and a little frustrated too. Are you annoyed? Or that's what annoyed feels like, right? So really going into that. But I think really, really big is letting them know that we feel all emotions too, and it's okay. And just being vocal about that.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I created a program for schools that actually does exactly that, which, kind of made me smile like, oh, awesome. I did something pretty okay that a
Yeah.
social worker or a therapist would recommend, where the kids, we call out a feeling and we say, what does that look like for you? And then we look around the room and then we can see all the kids have different ways of showing that same emotion, but it's valid. Like, so that's yay. Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you so much
of
for
course.
sharing your personal parenting journey. I love that it's so personal to you and you are so passionate about the work. That means that, the work that you're doing is good. When somebody loves what they do, we know that we're getting good stuff. So I appreciate that. I see that the people that you serve are in Connecticut, but since you are virtual, do you ever serve anybody else for like your coffee and your mom talks or your journaling? Do you have groups where you open it up to anybody who can get into the registration?
Yeah, so right now the groups are in person, so it's in Connecticut. But coming soon, I will be taking virtually throughout the country. So I'll be able to see people in other states. I'm excited about that. Not in a therapy capacity, in a coaching capacity. So that's
Yes.
exciting. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us for Nailed It Motherhood podcast. We are going to move on to the next segment where now we get to know a little bit more about Jocelyn. So we're going to play a game called Tea Time, Tea Time, Tea
All right.
Time. So Tea Time is a game of rapid fire, and I've come up with a bunch of questions. Some of them are deep, some of them are just for fun. But in this game, Jocelyn will have 3 minutes to answer as many questions as she can so we can get a little more insight into who she is. So I am going to put 3 minutes on the clock and I will share with Jocelyn so that she does not think that I'm cheating her and giving her more than 3 minutes because I would never want to do that. All right. So 3 minutes on the clock. I have my bucket of questions. And Jocelyn, are you ready to play?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
Let's do it. First question is, what's your guilty pleasure?
Oh, man. Once the kids are asleep, ice cream, sitting down with some ice cream, watching TV, reading a book. That's what I like to do, because then I don't have to share it.
Absolutely. Morning person or night owl?
Night owl, 1,000%.
It depends on the day and my workload, but yes, I do like night working. Who is your celebrity crush?
Oh, man. I don't know his name. He's from a TV show where the moms, my goodness, the moms got into doing some bad stuff. like robbing stores or whatever, and he's the criminal that helps them out. I'm drawing a blank right now.
I know who you're talking about, and he's handsome. I don't know his name either, but
Yes.
he's fine. So, what is the last TV show or movie you binge watched?
Jenny and Georgia, sort of in the background. Yes.
Yeah. What's the worst piece of advice you ever received?
Oh my goodness, that's a hard one. I'm getting stuck.
Okay, we'll move on. We'll come back. If you could give your younger self advice, what would it be?
Do it scared. Just keep going.
Yes, I like that. What's the best gift you ever received?
Time for myself. So like having someone say, I will take care of things, whether it's my husband, my mom, time for myself.
That's a great gift. If you could instantly master any skill, what would it be?
I would love to be a fast reader because I love to read, but it takes me a little bit.
That's a good skill. What pet peeve will you never get over?
Poor communication.
I got you. Name the most spontaneous thing you've ever done.
Sometimes it's called Thursday. Like we just get in the car, there's no plan, and let's just go.
I like it. I love it. What is your hidden talent?
I call myself a good dancer, but I really love to dance. I enjoy it.
You call yourself it? Does nobody else?
I mean, I've never been told I'm a bad dancer, so I think that's a good sign.
Well, that is a good sign. Okay, so the time is out, but I kind of want to go back to the question that you had to think about, and I won't give you. I'll give you 15. That's a long time. I'll just ask the question. What is the worst piece of advice you ever received?
That doing this, like going on my own private practice, was too risky. Because I think it's coming from the other person's fear. Yeah.
Jocelyn, that is such a fantastic piece of advice. Okay, let me backtrack. That is a fantastic worst piece of advice.
Yes.
Because I can't stand having to live up for somebody else's feelings. Like, that's not what God put that on my heart to do it. So I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it confidently without.
Right. Then I heard it even louder. I'm like, okay, challenge accepted.
Right? So thank you so much for playing Tea Time with us. It was wonderful to get to know you a little bit more. I am going to look up this man because now I can't even think of. Is it Bad Moms? No,
I think it is. No,
is it?
I don't know. All those series kind of blend together, but I know I just saw him scrolling today. Yeah.
I'm going to find him, and he's going to be in one of your posts. I promise you that.
Yes.
But at this time, I want to give you back the microphone because I know that you probably have some encouraging words or inspiration for moms, dads, the village that you would love to share before you leave. Leave your stamp with something encouraging. So the floor is yours.
Yes, I want to encourage everyone to find someone safe that they trust to open up about some of those feelings that they're having with being a mom, with parenting, right? And just recognizing that you're not the first person to go through this. You're not the first person to have this thought or these feelings, and you are not alone.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much. Find your support. I always love to say, if you don't have a village, to make your own. Because sometimes it just has to be done that way, and it's okay. The ones that you make are typically the best kind of village, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for sharing that, your encouraging words. What is next for you, and how can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah, so next for me is more mom groups in person, right? We want to do more of those coffee and mom talks. Coaching, so being able to work with moms outside of Connecticut. And I have a few other things creative. Let's see what happens with them.
Yes, I'm excited and looking forward to seeing what happens. And don't forget, you can always ask Nailed It Motherhood to shout you out or support when they come through, because we will be happy to. We want to create community where we are our own little ecosystem. You have a supporter in us, as long as it's not like stripping or something. We're not going to do that.
No, not at all. You can find
Wonderful.
me on Instagram, is where I'm usually hanging out, posting stuff, even just beyond the therapist, right? Because there's so much of like, oh, as therapists, we have to be blank slates. And I'm like, no, I have a life. I go through struggles too, right? So on Instagram, Open Space Therapy LLC.
Awesome. Open Space Therapy at Open Space Therapy LLC. That will be in the description below. I do want to take this opportunity, Jocelyn, to say thank you again for considering sharing your personal parenting journey on Nailed It Motherhood podcast. I really appreciate all of our guests, but everybody brings their own unique story, and it is critical and not critical, but it's important that you use your voice, share your story, share the power that you have. And I thank you for coming on here and sharing that with our guests. I do have 3 more questions for you that we ask all moms. And I really want you to think about this and answer honestly. You have a 4-year-old and you have almost 2-year-old, since we're not counting in months.
Yeah.
But the first question is, parenting hard?
Yes, absolutely. All caps.
I said, think about it now, Jocelyn. But are they still standing?
Of course, yes.
Awesome. And I'm sure they're standing tall. You have a little therapist in the making. So what do you want to proudly tell our guests today?
This mama is nailing it.
Nailing it. Thank you, Jocelyn. Jocelyn Flores is nailing it. I always hear, my sister was on the show last season, and I always hear boom, 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 boom. Every time I hear that, I'm just like, oh, get it out. Yeah. But she's nailing it. If you like this episode and you want to hear more personal parenting journeys like Jocelyn's, please subscribe to my social media. That is Nailed It Motherhood Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And please don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Also, remember that you can be a guest on the podcast by simply completing a guest application. The link is down below. We welcome your questions, your comments, and your ideas, and we certainly hope to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep on doing what it is you do. Smooches.
You're listening to Nailed It Motherhood Podcast.